Welcome back to The Critique. Today we're looking at a really intense piece of commentary.
Very intense.
It's a video analyzing footage of toddlers in a classroom chanting political slogans. And the creator uses that to launch into this massive argument about parenting, cultural indoctrination, and, well, spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
It is passionate, it is angry, and it covers a lot of ground. But the big question we're tackling is, does the structure actually support the weight of that argument?
Well, it's a heavy lift, for sure. When you're dealing with something as visceral as, toddlers chanting terrorist slogans, the emotional stakes are already through the roof.
Right.
The challenge is keeping that energy focused so it doesn't just spray everywhere.
Exactly. And that brings us right to the opening of the video. The hook. He comes out swinging.
He really does.
Within the first, 90 seconds, we are talking about chemical castration, the Transformers situation, DEI, eradicating a child in the womb. It's a lot.
It is a lot, and look, I get why he's doing it. When you're in the creator's seat and you see all these different societal issues, gender ideology, abortion, radicalization, in your mind, they are all connected. Sure. They're all tentacles of the same monster. So the impulse is to list them all out right at the top to show the scale of the threat.
Right, like he's trying to build a coalition of grievances. Like, if you're mad about X, Y, or Z, then you should listen to this.
Precisely. But here is the problem with that approach. We call it the kitchen sink intro.
Ah, okay.
You are throwing everything at the viewer before you've even established the main event. By the time we actually get to the video of the toddlers, which is the title of the video, it's why we click, I've already been asked to process the ethics of gender reassignment, the morality of abortion, and the definition of DEI. My brain is already full.
Yeah, it's like I click to see the evidence of the chanting, but I'm getting a lecture on everything else first. It creates this feeling of a culture war salad.
Yes! Culture war salad, that's a perfect way to put it. And that dilutes the power of the specific footage he has. If everything is an emergency, then nothing is.
Right.
If Transformers are just as bad as jihadist chanting, the viewer starts to numb out. You don't want to exhaust your audience before you even show them the smoking gun.
So how do we fix that? Because I don't think he wants to cut those references. He clearly believes they are linked. How do you keep the context without the clutter?
You need a container. You need a thematic anchor. Instead of listing them as separate grievances, item A, item B, item C, you wrap them all up in a single concept.
Okay, give me an example. What kind of concept?
Well, listening to his tone, the core violation he's angry about is the corruption of children.
Yeah, definitely.
So why not frame the whole intro around the war on innocence?
The war on innocence. That's strong.
Right? Because think about it. If you use that phrase, you can mention the other stuff without getting bogged down in the mechanics.
Okay.
You could rewrite that opening to say something like, we have seen innocence stolen through gender ID. We have seen it stolen through the culture of death. But now, look at how it is being stolen through political radicalization.
Oh, I see the difference. You aren't stopping to explain chemical castration.
No.
You're just nodding to it as another front in the same war.
Exact. It groups the enemies. It tells the listener, I know you're worried about all these things, and this new thing fits right into that pattern. It focuses the energy like a laser instead of a shotgun. It prepares the viewer for the specific horror of the toddler video, rather than distracting them from it.
That makes a ton of sense. It respects the audience's intelligence without overwhelming their bandwidth. Okay, so once we get past that intro, he plays the clip, and it is disturbing footage.
For sure.
But then he pauses it to do some analysis, and this is where things got a little sticky for me.
The demographics section.
Yeah, he stops the video and starts analyzing the racial and ethnic makeup of the kids. He zooms in on the girl leading the chant and speculates that she might be of Arab background or maybe raised by a white liberal mama. He's pointing out black kids, Syrian descent, a Musrite Jew.
I winced a little at that part. I have to be honest.
But play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't he trying to show that this isn't just one group, or maybe that specific demographics are being targeted? Like, isn't there a validity to pointing out who is in the room?
There is validity in noting the diversity of the indoctrination, sure, but the execution here is dangerous. When you start guessing the phenotype of a toddler, literally talking about their facial features and guessing their heritage, you are walking into a trap.
What kind of trap?
The credibility trap. As soon as you focus on the child's race, you give your critics an easy out. They don't have to engage with your argument about the chanting or the ideology.
Ah.
They can just say, oh, this guy's obsessed with race, or he's bullying a little girl based on how she looked.
So it becomes an ad hominem magnet. You hand them a weapon to use against you.
100%. And more importantly, does it actually help the argument? The child is a victim. It doesn't matter if that little girl is Syrian, white, Jewish, or Martian.
Right.
She is being brainwashed. By focusing on her background, you're almost implying that her background explains her behavior, which actually lets the teacher off the hook.
That's a great point. The kid didn't come up with the chant. The adult in the room did. So if we strip out the racial speculation, what do we replace it with? We still need to analyze the visual.
You focus on the contrast. That is the most powerful visual element. You have children who are small, innocent, barely able to stand still, and they are reciting genocidal slogans.
Right. The disconnect between the messenger and the message?
Exactly. So cut the line about, I noticed the demographics. Cut the guessing game about the liberal mama. Instead, say this. Look at these children. They cannot yet tie their shoes, but they are being drilled with military precision.
Ooh, cannot tie their shoes? That lands way harder than she looks Arab.
Right, because it universalizes the tragedy. It emphasizes the helplessness of the child. The creator calls the teacher the commander and thief. That is a brilliant line.
It's a great line.
He should lean into that. The commander and thief is stealing their minds. It keeps the heat on the perpetrator, the adult, and keeps the child strictly as the victim.
That's a much tighter argument. It's bulletproof. You can't call him a racist for pointing out that a toddler shouldn't be chanting about war.
Exactly. It keeps the moral high ground secure.
Okay, let's move to the middle of the commentary. And this is probably the trickiest part of the whole piece, structure-wise, because we start with this political, cultural commentary referencing the UK, Sweden, Belgium, the US. It feels like a geopolitical warning.
It does. It feels like a standard conservative commentary on Western decline.
But then, hard left turn, or I guess hard upward turn, he pivots deep into theology.
Yeah.
Suddenly we are talking about counterfeit Yahweh, the 660 Mosaic laws, and why Allah is not the same God.
It is a profound shift. And look, knowing this creator's profile, this is the heart of his message.
I get that.
He isn't just a political commentator, he's a theological one. He believes the root cause is spiritual.
Which is fine. It's his show. But as a listener, I got a little whiplash. I felt like I walked into a lecture on foreign policy, and suddenly the professor pulled out a Bible and started preaching on Jeremiah.
That's the risk. We call it the trapdoor.
The trapdoor.
You have a broad coalition of people listening at the start. Secular conservatives, libertarians, concerned parents who maybe aren't religious but are worried about school. They are nodding along with the anti-indoctrination stuff. Then, bam. The trapdoor opens, and they fall into a sermon they didn't sign up for.
And the danger is they just tune out, right? They think, oh, this part isn't for me. This is for the church crowd.
Exactly. And you lose the chance to persuade them. So the goal isn't to cut the theology. That's his core truth. The goal is to build a bridge so the secular listener crosses over willingly.
So how do you build that bridge? Because right now, he just jumps from communism is bad to read Isaiah.
You need to signpost the spiritual lens. But more than that, you need to frame the theology as the logical solution to the political problem.
Break that down? How does that sound in a script?
Okay, so right now the transition feels arbitrary. A better version would argue that secular tools have failed. He could say something like, we have tried fighting this with logic. We have tried fighting it with secular laws. We've tried the Western approach of reason. And guess what? The chanting is getting louder.
Oh, that's interesting. So you paint the secular response as insufficient.
Yes, you corner the secular listener. You tell them your tools are broken. That is why I have to bring in a spiritual tool. Then you introduce the theology not just as religious belief, but as the only strategy left.
We need a spiritual defense because the political defense collapsed.
Bingo. Now, even if I'm an atheist listening to this, I'm intrigued. I might think, well, okay, I don't believe in Yahweh, but he's right that the school board meetings aren't working. Let's hear what he has to say.
It keeps them in the room?
It keeps them in the room. You also want to plant that flag earlier. In the first minute, when he says the word evil, he should define it. Don't wait until minute 10.
Right.
Say, when I say evil, I don't just mean bad behavior. I mean spiritual rebellion. Set the terms of the debate up front so nobody feels tricked later.
That's huge. It's about respect for the audience, really. Letting them know where you're taking them so they don't feel ambushed by the sermon.
Completely. It makes the piece feel cohesive rather than two different videos stitched together.
Okay. brings us to the final stretch, the call to action. He's fired up. He wants parents to wake up. He wants them to stop ignoring what's happening in schools. And then he goes after the NFL.
The distraction argument.
Yeah. He goes on a bit of a tear about parents who memorize all the stats of that NFL team or know all the scandals, but don't know what their kids are learning. And I have to be honest, as a guy who looks forward to Red Zone every Sunday, felt a little defensive.
It's a natural reaction. Nobody likes being scolded for their hobbies. And that is the weakness of this section. It feels cliché.
Totally cliché.
It's the standard fire and brimstone preacher yelling at you for watching TV.
It feels like shaming without a solution. Like, okay, I turn off the game. Now what? I'm just sitting there angry.
Exactly. It attacks the symptom, checking out, without offering a method for checking in. The connection is also a bit of a stretch. Is me watching the Chiefs game really the reason my kid is learning propaganda at school? It feels like a logical leap.
It pushes people away just when you want to pull them in. So how do we fix this? Because his point is valid. Parents are distracted. We are asleep at the wheel. How do you say that without sounding like a grumpy scold?
You move from shaming to trading. You offer a replacement strategy.
A replacement strategy. What does that look like?
Instead of just saying, don't watch the game or stop watching Cocomelon, you give them a specific high-value alternative. You turn it into a transaction.
Give me a script line.
Something like, I'm not saying you can never watch a game, but make this deal with yourself. For every hour your child spends in the world system, you owe them an hour of debrief.
Oh, I like that. It's a math problem. I can solve a math problem.
Right, it's actionable. And then tell them how to debrief. Don't just say, talk to your kids. That's vague. Give them the question. Ask your child, what did you hear today that sounded strange to you?
That is so much better. It empowers the parent. Instead of feeling guilty for liking football, I feel equipped to handle the school situation.
And we can take it one step further with the visual. You know how he points to the open Bible on his desk?
Yeah, he says keep an open Bible. It's a nice image.
It's a nice image, but currently it's just a prop. Let's turn it into a weapon.
A weapon?
In the context of spiritual warfare, yes. Don't just say, keep it open. Suggest a specific tactic. When your child hears, river to the sea, sit them down, open this book to Jeremiah, and read them the covenant about the land.
Wow. Okay, that is specific.
It connects the abstract theology to the specific political chant. It gives the parent a concrete countermove. They say X, you show them Y. Now the Bible isn't just sitting there gathering dust as a symbol of piety. It's being used as the sword he claims.
That transforms the whole ending. It goes from, you are a bad parent for being distracted, to, here's how you become a warrior parent.
Which is an inspiring message. That's a message people will share. I felt bad isn't shareable. I felt empowered is.
Man, this has been a really useful teardown. It's amazing how these small structural tweaks change the whole emotional resonance of the piece.
It's all about the user experience, the content, the raw passion, the theology, the political awareness. It's all there. This creator has the goods.
He does.
But the structure is the delivery system. If the delivery system is clogged or messy, the medicine doesn't get to the patient.
So let's recap the 4 big pillars for this rewrite. If he's sitting down to draft version 2.0, what are the headlines?
Number 1, thematic anchor. Don't give us the kitchen sink intro. Wrap the grievances in a container like the war on innocence so we don't get overwhelmed before the main event.
Number 2, credibility and analysis. Stop guessing the toddler's ethnicities. It's a trap. Focus on the ideology and the contrast between their innocent shoes and their violent words. Keep the heat on the teacher, not the child.
Number 3, the bridge. Don't trapdoor your secular listener. Frame the theological pivot as a strategic necessity because secularism has failed. Make the Bible the solution to the political problem, not just a subject change.
And number 4, actionability. Stop shaming the hobbies, start trading the time. Give parents the debriefing ratio and turn the open Bible from a prop into a tactical counter-argument.
You nail those 4 things, and this video goes from a rant to a weapon. It becomes something that can actually change minds and habits.
I love that. To the creator of this piece, we know you're passionate and we know you care deeply about this topic. That is why we are being so tough on the structure. We want this argument to land.
Absolutely. Take these notes, play with them, see how they feel in your voice. We really want to hear the next iteration.
Please send it back in. We'd love to do a side-by-side comparison. That's it for this critique. Thanks for listening and keep refining the work.
See you next time.